Okay, so we had a look at about best services. Let's now after the tools. Well, this is not the end of the tools. There could be many, but what we are trying to do here, we are trying to understand a few tools which are necessary, which are more commonly used. There are many tools which are not that commonly used, but in case if any job descriptions, they normally come across such tools, we'll review then and there. Don't worry about that part. I'll be there with you throughout the interviewing process, throughout the 6 months support. So don't ever feel like we'll leave you high and dry. That's not the case. And we'll be there for at least next 6 to 8 months together, getting things sorted out even as when we start working. Okay. I believe you can all understand that. Anybody have any questions on these tools so far in our learning processes?
No, so far so good.
Oh, thank you. No, not all projects use PESTLE. There are very few who use PESTLE. There are very few who use Fishbone, and there are very few who use SWOT analysis. See, these are very selective tools used by certain organizations who are either liking or the domain they have applied to. Okay, so generically we just use requirement gathering through MOMs. We build a requirement list in Excel. Then we basically have this requirement list included in SRS. We jot down some complex requirement with use case diagram. Then we have a conceptual architecture conceiving, that's through high level diagrams. If you want to support any decision making process, we use Microsoft Excel. So these are the tools which we use necessarily for every business analysis process. First MOM, second Excel, third SRS as a Word document, and fourth is use case diagram, and fifth is basically our analysis techniques or conceptualization technique. Again, the drawing can be with pen and paper or drawing can be with Microsoft Word as well. We have seen both the ways, right? And that's why these 5 tools are the most important as far as business analysis goes. Now, let's move on and try to understand what is business requirement document or system requirement document. There's a small difference, but again this difference got really hazy in last couple of years. In 2005 2006 we have BRD released from a client so that the technological partner can bid for that BRD. So it was a auction process, quote process, or request for quote. Those type of process BRD were used. But nowadays, more or less, even SRS can be referred as BRD. So don't get confused. Somebody asked BRD. The BRD's full form is Business Requirement Document. It's similar to SRS. Why we normally call SRS? Because SRS is one of the most oldest, technical word we used for gathering system requirement specification. That's why SRS is more prominent. But many still call them BRD as well. So don't ever get confused. Okay. So let's try to understand these one by one. What all it have? Business requirement document have normally business requirement summary. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to enhance attendance management system for State Farm. Cost benefit analysis. How much State Farm should spend? 1 million, 1.5 million, 3 million, depending upon the client's budget, depending upon the earlier discussions we have. Okay. Okay. N have asked question, on what basis we choose a suitable tool, like if we need to launch a new product in the market. Good question. The tools are chosen by the organization, not by you and me. Even project managers don't have authority or the experience to choose an tool for an organization. The tools have been chosen for a senior most auditory body called Project Management Office, or the CEOs or CTOs of the world, or the product heads of the world, or the those dignitaries. We normally just follow. So whatever tools we are using, we have to just practice a bit and get it used to, so that whenever at work we need to draw or we need to use that tool, we are ready to use that. Okay. Okay. No, yeah, pardon me for that. The chat shows, and that's why I say no. No problem. So here, what we are trying to do, we are trying to learn the most common use tools, and then we also had to look at a couple of exceptional tools. So don't sweat yourself. Don't push too much effort in those tools. If you want, put efforts in building an SRS, and we'll have a workshop also. I'll share those details with you today so that you know how to build SRS. Okay, don't worry on that part. So let me continue on my presentation. So here what we are trying to do, we are trying to build cost benefit analysis. You understood, I believe, right? The client is an assessment of how much we spend for a given product, service, solution, or whatever they are trying to get it from the technical partner develop. Then we have scalability of a business. So we need to understand if we are building an attendance management solution, and today we have, let's say, 1,600 employees. Tomorrow it can be 2,000. Day after tomorrow, the year it can be 2,000. Next year it can be 2,500, and so on and so forth. So we need to understand the solution can be at least viable for 5 years down the line. So it should have something called scalability to scale the solution to a new width to adopt to the user base we are going to get adopted. Availability and reliability. The solution, as we discussed, it was a requirement, right? The solution should be available 24/7. So we are going to deploy it on a cloud which is available 24/7. Availability, reliability. So we should normally partner with a good cloud service provider so that we don't have to worry about the cloud getting down, virus infection, and all those things. Again, this is a business decision. We help to choose that. If you are a senior business analyst who work in a cloud space or infrastructure analyst, then you might analyze what are the different cloud service provider, which is the best. You might present a PESTLE analysis, you might present an Excel chart to them, saying yes, this is the best, and for these reasons. Then yes, of course, nowadays security is a bigger threat, bigger concern, right? So does that cloud service provider provide security for your data, for your applications, and so on and so forth? So we need to understand that, and that's included in the BRD or SRS. Support for multiple device type. Is it a need? Should that enhancement attendance management solution should be supported by Palm Top, desktop, BlackBerry, Whiteberry, Yellowberry, and all those things? Smartphone, non-smartphone. It depends. It depends on how user want it, how the client is requiring. Client have specified such requirement. So we go ahead with the client because he's going to pay us for the development. Then performance requirement. What type of performance requirement are we looking for? Are we looking for very quick, faster application? Yes, that's always there. But are we ready to pay that? Because when you say you need a faster application, you might need to spend a bit more on infrastructure, right? So there is a cost or ROI scenarios here as well. So we need to understand which is the best median we can achieve. So at the economical cost, I'm getting the maximum performance what I am striving for. Accountability and audit back to business sponsor, so that the software we develop, the solution we provide, the services we given, the business people could be able to audit that, could be able to account the spendings on such scenarios. So we provide auditory fact, like we say minutes of meeting, like we said decision analysis in Excel, like we said fishbone diagram, like we said use case diagram. So this way we provide auditory artifacts for every decisions we take, and that's why business sponsor will work with us. And these are all things included in the BRD. Does that make sense? Anybody have any confusion on BRD?
That's good.
Okay, good. Let's take a step ahead and let's try to understand what is objectives or inclusion in BRD again, so that we'll basically get it revised. Now this is more a bit technical. We are going into technical from a layman's terminology. So here we use some good technical term which is normally used. Please pay attention. To get an agreement among the stakeholders, contract, work order, statement of work, these are normally given to the technical partner like Infosys by State Farm. Now these documents legally make sure whenever Infosys give a solution to State Farm is going to pay so much amount to Infosys for their work. And this is what we call a contract. This is what we call an agreement, work order, statement of work, and so on and so forth. They are not same thing. They differ in a bit, like 2%, 5%, 10%, 15%. But more or less, this is a kind of agreement between the two organizations, and we are the basically building block of this agreement. So business analysts help to build this agreement to the salespeople as well, because salespeople in Infosys execute this agreement with the senior delegates from State Farm who are authorized to sign on such orders. Communicate to the partner technology provider the business needs, the customer needs, and what the solution needs to do to satisfy the business and customer needs. So whenever a client, here we call it stakeholders rather than a client, come to something like Infosys and tell them, hey Infosys, our technical partner, let's build and let's enhance our attendance management system. So Infosys, yes. So what do you have in mind? So they supply some Excel sheet, some Word document saying this is what we have in thought. So then we'll have, with the business analyst, we have a couple of meetings to make sure we understand the requirement clearly and we start building the SRS. And that's how this initial requirement gathering process starts there. Of course, we take all the inputs required for the further phases of the project as well. There should be a phase one. If the work is bigger than to be completed within a couple of months, we might have phase-wise project, solution, or services development step by step. And then the requirement have all the detailed needs of the customer and the business that the solution intends to meet. In a scenario, we collect the concise requirement, a complete requirement, where we have all the nth parameter included in the documentation as far as requirement goes. We also include the communication as email, meeting notes as the minutes of meeting, an item list which list in the SRS most of the time, or in the BRD most of the time. And that's why these documents, these artifacts are really crucial for the business people, for the development people who are going to construct on the basis of requirement you have gathered. To clarify the following, we are going to solve the answer to these three questions. What are the problems with the business want to solve with this solution services project? What are the restrictions? Is it worth to invest the time and money required for this project? So these are the three questions which are normally answered by the BRD or the SRS. Does that make sense? Anybody have any challenge in understanding these things?
It's fine.
Okay, fine. Okay. Let's take a step further. Let's try to understand. Now, there might be a questions, how do you differentiate SRS and BRD? Nowadays, they don't ask this question because now the line is really blurred. Okay, but BRD is normally supplied by a client most of the time. SRS is built by the technical partner. So BRD is supplied by stakeholder. SRS is made by technical partner like Infosys. BRD is given by State Farm of the world. Okay, let's just understand this thing. There could be a scenario where even your interviewer says BRD and SRS is the same similar thing. Okay, so don't get yourself confused. Okay, let's try to understand. A business requirement document is a formal contract between the customer and the organization for a product. So the BRD includes contract. System requirement specification establishes the basis for an agreement between the customer and the contractors or the suppliers, or how the software product should function. Rigorous assessment of the requirement before the more specific system design stages, and its goal to reduce lateral redesign. So SRS includes all these things like the basis for contracts or suppliers, what all the client, the technical partner should supply, why we should supply with the best quality, why the redesign shouldn't be a normal scope. So we have to supply whatever we can supply with the latest possible technology, latest possible tool sets available for that. SRS is based on BRD. Normally BRD is from client and SRS is developed by a technology partner. Does that make sense to you? Again, don't stress yourself. This is
So when we say technology partner, is the service provider not a better term to use?
Service provider. That's right now. The Infosys of the world in our example.
Yeah, because they are providing that. So technology partner is a very, I mean, I find it kind of way because technology partner can be their vendor, or it can be anything for the state farm because
That's
they
right.
are building the solution. So I think, I mean,
Yeah. In normal scenario, whenever company like State Farm allots a contract, it gives a contract to one, and then that one will manage the vendors and everything. So the SRS includes the vendor in case if Infosys decides to use Sony's iris scanners or biometric scanner or Philips iris scanner or a biometric scanner, the procurement has to be done by Infosys rather than State Farm, and they provide the complete solution rather than Infosys scripting. Boss, you got Philips iris scanner, it doesn't work well with my system, and so on and so forth. So they give one single contract to a technology partner like Infosys, where they will manage each and everything internally, and the State Farm is not bothered with either to go for Philips or Sony or whatnot. And that's how things are done on the ground. So there's normally just one partner to a client, to a stakeholder. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
yeah, it does. I mean, for a specific project, I understand. But then, suppose a company is making a solution for a client, but if there is an infrastructure, for example, Oracle on a database server, then I mean, I've seen so many scenarios where I used to work. Oracle was a vendor that was actually managed by the business, not the technology partner. I mean,
Yes,
there are a couple of so many scenarios. It can be both, right?
I know. That's why I'm saying let's not confuse ourselves. Let's imagine there's a State Farm, there's a Infosys, which is a single, supplier for State Farm, and then the database like Oracle, SAP, and everything, the license will be managed by the Infosys, and State Farm will pay a lump sum fee. Otherwise, State Farm has to have a product manager and a contractor and a volume licensing fellow who will basically look at how better negotiation can be done with Oracle, with Sony, with Philips, and so on and so forth. So the procurement headache of a client grows in multi-folds. As you discuss the scenario is really hazy. Unless and until the client is stringent, he don't normally go for such scenario. You know what I'm trying to say, right, ma'am?
Yeah, I know. If it is it's a small company, then they just do it with one, right? So if it's a large scale company, then the scenario can be different.
Yeah, that can be really
Yeah.
well explained. Great. Okay, so you got idea. For
Yeah,
others,
yeah.
use yourself, go with SRS to be given by the technical partner like Infosys. BRD is given by something like client or a stakeholder called State Farm. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Sorry, I cut you out. Yes, Vandana, ma'am. Do you have any question?
No, I'm clear now. Yeah.
Okay, great. So just thumb BRD given by client, SRS given by technology partner.
Yeah, thank you.
Right? And many of these interviewers, even if you heard Devji, he explains as his BRD and SRS is one document. So that's also part and parcel of the industry nowadays. Previously, it was really hazy, but now as an analyst, even State Farm have analysts, Infosys have analysts, and they work together. This is how it happens on a real day-to-day today. Okay, so these things are getting blurred. I've just included these slides so that we should have these things if somebody asks the question, but you can clearly ignore these things. BRD high level functional listing for the software. SRS, it's high level functional and technical specification of a software. So here we are trying to include some technical conceptualization as well. Again, SRS is not a design or architect document. It's simply a system requirement specification. Specification is different from the functional specification or a design or a what you can say architectural document. Okay, it is a formal document to describe the requirement provided by the client, written or verbal. This is about BRD. about SRS, it describes the functional and non-functional requirement of the software to be developed by the technical partner. The business analyst creates it after their direct interaction with the clients or here the users, in-house users. The business analyst at technology partner side creates the SRS as it needs technical expertise, though sometimes BRD to can business who can create it. This should be business. Okay, give me a minute. Even business can create it, review it, modify it. Okay, BRD is derived based on the requirements and the client interactions. SRS is derived from BRD, or you can call it BRS also, business requirement specification. These words are used interchangeably, so don't stress yourself out. Okay, I have kept it as for our understanding purpose. Now let's try to understand how we build SRS, and we'll have a workshop on building SRS. I'll share a template with you after a session so you can start building an SRS. System requirement solution document. It's a system requirement summary. Chapter 1, system requirement summary. System, services, and dependencies. How the system is dependent on other software solutions already in place. Interportability requirement. In case if you are deploying this at a couple of places, then how one solution can fit all, or do you have to have a number of versions of the solutions to be fitted at different places? The network impact assessment. Now here we are standardized on cloud, so that point is reduced to almost negligible. Versioning and life cycle impact of the system and environment. We had a look at versioning earlier, but we'll have a look at great depth of versioning whenever we learn the project quality management in our project management knowledge area. And of course, we include high-level diagram, use cases, and a couple of others chapters as well. Okay. Then, okay, of course, there's something called functional requirement specification, who is done by the designers and architect of the world. Now, there are many chances where we forget about why we draw BRD or SRS, right? Why we create SRS. SRS is a base for FRS, functional requirement specification, which is normally done by the architects and the designer of the systems, who they're going to build it for. Functional and non-functional requirement, business process model, context diagram, solution boundaries. These are all technical terminology. We normally describes the design or architect of a solution, project, or services. These are done by the architects of the world and the designers of the world. Then they have a detailed flow diagrams, business rules and data part requirements, conceptual model, high level display of different entities and interaction, logical model business functions and interdependencies, activities, work element, stakeholder map, and requirement traceability matrix. Stakeholder map, we're going to learn detail in project management. Same with the RTM, we had a look at RTM. RTM is a requirement traceability matrix, wherever we trace the requirement from a singular minutes of meetings to a block in a high level diagram, to a use case diagram, and to a module to be deployed to the client in a given HLD. So these are all included in the functional requirement solution. I have just included this slide to make sure you understand FRS. There's no need to understand FRS in depth as of now. Okay, we'll have a look at FRS again whenever we do product owners. That time, product owner is a guiding partner for building FRS as well. He sanctions of this FRS. Okay. Now, FRS also includes, these are all technical scenarios like installation, setup requirement summary, uninstallation requirement summary, integration requirement summary, supportability summary, legal requirement summary, risk summary, and so on and so forth. Okay. Don't get confused with this thing. These are nth level details for the FRS, right? Now let's try to understand how BA performs on a day-to-day basis. So what we do, we normally collect requirement. You create auditory artifact for this requirement decision-making process. You create a conceptual architecture with HLD. You also depict, critical requirement with actual use case diagram, detailing all the scenarios and priorities and alternative paths available there. Okay, let's try to understand, what we do as a PA on a day-to-day basis. Understanding requirement of the business, analyzing information, communicating with a broad range of people. We discuss with quite a few stakeholders so that even SMEs and COEs of the world where we get the where we collect a complete requirement. Then we document this finding. We create auditory artifacts, evaluating and implementing the finest solutions. In essence, the job of business analyst involves the navigation responsible for reaching the end destination, which implies a satisfying resolution of a solution. Let me play a small video for you where we understand how does a BA work in Google, in a good mature company, where we'll understand how this BA does its day-to-day task, and what we need to do, what we need to do as in what business expect us to do as in business analyst. Let's hear him from it.
So you want to know what a day in the life of a business analyst looks like? Well, I'm glad you asked. What is going on, guys? This is Faizan. Welcome to the channel. I am a business analyst myself, and I'm here to tell you guys what a day in the life of a BA looks like. So I've got my whiteboard behind me. If you guys do enjoy this video, please don't forget to make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to the channel as I do post a lot of content. So with that being said, let's get started. So let me start by saying this. No 2 days are going to be exactly the same, okay? And the biggest reason of how each day is really going to depend on where you are in a certain project. So if you're at the beginning, middle, or end, that will determine how your day is going to go. So when we talk about a day in the life of BA, we're talking about where in the project are you, okay? So let's say this. If you are in the beginning phase, so let's say a project has been assigned to you, okay? If that is the case, then my day would then consist of, and again, you can have multiple projects assigned to you, probably 1 to 3, not more than 3. It's usually hovering more around 1 or 2 or even 1. But once you're assigned a project, let's assume you have 1 project. Let's assume that is where you're at. You get assigned the project, and now it depends, obviously, on the methodology. Is your project in Agile? Is your project in Waterfall? And again, if you don't know what the difference between those 2 methodologies is, go ahead and look that up. We can also talk about it in a different video. But for the purposes of this one, it depends on the methodology. So if we do go with Agile, which is obviously more has to do with sprints and whatnot, that will trigger me to, start the beginning of the sprint. I'm working with my PM to do all of that stuff. But once I get the project assigned to me, the first thing I'm doing, irrespective of the methodology, is I'm going ahead and I'm setting up meetings or meeting for now with my stakeholders. Okay. Who are my stakeholders? Well, those are the business folks. So remember I told you that the BA is the middleman between the IT and the business. So remember I told you that? And because the business and the IT can't talk in the same language, that is where the BA comes in. So I'm going to need to go to the business and get those requirements, okay? And if you guys want to know more about that, check out my other videos. And once I get those requirements, then I can go ahead and translate that and hand it off to the developers, the IT department. So I'm going ahead and I'm setting up these meetings. So this is what my day would consist of. I'm going to go ahead, okay, find out who are my business stakeholders on this project, what this project's about. After I found out all of the detail, then I'm going to go ahead and set up those meetings, okay? Once I've done that, now this is where the methodologies come, okay? Because remember, I told you, if we are doing Agile, we've got a sprint-based type of route that we go in. And if we're doing waterfall, then it is more documentation, okay? Heavier on documentation. So depending on these methodologies, which one the projects could go into, and it could be a hybrid, it could be, then I'm usually going ahead, and again, let's say I do Agile, I'm going ahead and, talking with my PM, setting up, the sprint. We need to, obviously, I need to set up my meetings, my grooming sessions, my discovery sessions. She or he needs to do the planning. So going through the entire cycle. If it's just a waterfall project, then obviously after I've gathered the requirements, I can go ahead and start documenting the BRD. So like I said, all of these things come into play in a given day. Now you've got 8 hours in a day, so you're not going to be able to do everything. So that is why I say a day in the life of a BA is really going to heavily depend on where you are in the project. So elaborating on the where you are in the project is going to depend on what you do in a given day. Let me talk real quickly about the SDLC, which is the Software Development Lifecycle. That is what that stands for. And in the SDLC, we've got all of these steps, okay? It goes from planning to analysis to design, implement to test, and to maintain. So this is going to be where you're going to be in a project, okay? At any given time, you're going to be in one of these, okay? So if you're in one of these, depending on where you are, you're doing different things. The requirements gathering that I talked to you guys about, more so in the analysis part right here, the design part, like it'll take place around there. And then if you are, after you've handed off the requirements and it's being implemented by the developers and they would need your help if they need to clarify some requirements. So depending on where you are, that's what really is going to be part of your day. So again, for the BA, it's going to heavily depend on where they are in the cycle of a project. Okay, that's number one. And for number two, if you are not, talking about a project, then a lot of it, the other stuff could be administrative. You could be just, setting up a bunch of meetings. You could be, planning with your team and et cetera. So a lot of this, a lot of what a BA does is really going to heavily be influenced by this. Okay, and again, like I said, this is only for one project that we talked about. Now imagine and extrapolate that to, let's say, like 3 projects, and 3 projects, I can spell it, where you are in different phases. So one project you're in planning, another project you're in design, another project you're in test. So think about that. You're going to have 3 separate meetings in 3 separate areas. You might have a grooming session here. You might have a planning session here. You might have a discovery session. So that is really going to influence it. So again, to recap, a day in the life of a BA is very different depending on where they are in a certain project. Okay, and they can have up to, 1, 2 to 3 projects. You really have dealt around 2, depends on the size. But that is really it. So hopefully that helps give you guys a clear picture of a day in the life of a BA. So myself, real quickly, just talking about my own experiences, I'll get into the office around 9. I'll check my emails. After I check my emails and I respond to all of them, I'll go ahead and make sure I have my calendar with all the meetings I have for the day. I know what time my meetings are. And obviously, outside of just attending the meetings, I'm using the rest of the time to go ahead and work on wherever I'm in the project. So if I'm in the requirements gathering part, I'm going ahead and I'm taking down my notes of what questions I'm going to ask the stakeholders. Or if I'm writing the requirements, I'm going to go ahead and write my requirements, whether that's BRD or whether that's through user stories, okay? And so that is really going to be my entire day, obviously, and you'll have your lunch, whatnot, but that is really going to take
Has he sent any message on WhatsApp? I'm unable to open my WhatsApp. If anyone could just check and let me know.
Yeah, he said he has electrical failure. So he's gonna come back in a minute or two, or might go into the next session. But that's all. He said, pardon me, I got disconnected due to electrical failure. Give me a minute or two, or we'll meeting next session.
Okay,
that's-
thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because I'm not able to, I don't have my phone on me right now.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know what's going on either.
Since how long have these sessions started? Have you all been here in from the initial session?
I haven't, but I forgot when I even started.
Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hi, who's actually asking this question?
This is Nagina here.
Hi, Nagina. I think you are the most recent join, right? Here?
Yes, this is just my second session.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think this started actually on 14th of February.
Oh, it's been 2 months. Okay. I
Yeah.
thought it was all right. Until when is it expected to go on?
Because we still have to do the project management part, so I really don't know. But not long now.
So you're finished with safe and product owner?
We have done the Scrum and the Scrum part, the Agile Scrum.
Okay, and the product owner part, it's done, is it?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's covered in Scrum, I think. That's
Oh, okay. I thought only okay. All right. Let me check with him. Because I thought only the business analysis part is going on. I wasn't aware that the Scrum is done because that's important for me to learn as well.
yeah, but there are recording for all the sessions.
Yeah. Let me see how that goes because it's kind of better when it is live.
Always. So can I ask anyone a question? Has anyone actually used the Cloud Excel? The Office 365?
No, I haven't.
Anyone
have-
else? Okay. Because I'm not sure if you remember last time we were solving that date thing.
Yeah.
So I still haven't been able to figure that out.
What haven't you been able to figure out?
The how to, because it's not accepting, because if it is 4/9/2020, then I want to write the 9 that is September as September, not 9. How to
Okay. Did you
extract date?
try? Did you change the format of the cell to date?
I tried a couple of things. I don't even remember now.
Okay, because in the past, what I've done is you have to change the format of the existing cell or
Because
column,
it is
whichever you're using.
Mhm.
And then you have a drop down that shows you the format of date that you can choose.
I will try one more time. And like, if you have actually worked a lot on Excel, then maybe if you can help me, I'm not sure.
I have, but it's been it's in the past. If you want, you can share your screen in the meanwhile till he comes. I mean, we can just see if we can figure that out.
Just a second. Let me try. Just give me 1 second.
Okay, so he said meet next session.
Okay. All right then. Did he mention when is it?
It's on Tuesday.
Okay, all right. I think that should be fine. In the meanwhile, Vandana, if you want to share your screen, you can share it.
I'm trying to